Welcome to the Retail is Detail podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Hamer. This is where we go beyond the headlines and get into how great retailers and tech innovators really think, from trading to teams to business building to tech, loyalty, and data. Every Monday afternoon, I talk to the people building, running, and reinventing retail, unpacking what's working, what's changing, and what's next. If you care about the detail of retail, you're in the right place. Hello and welcome to the Retail is Detail podcast with your host, Jamie Hamer. I'm here with Tom Hill, the co-founder and chief commercial officer of Hyperfinity. Hyperfinity helps retailers make with decision intelligence, with making profitable data-driven marketing and loyalty decisions in one centralized AI platform. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jamie. Good to be here.
So, Tom, just leading in with an easy question. What's the biggest myth about understanding customer behavior, and how does Hyperfinity help expose it?
Okay, I think for me right now, the biggest myth about understanding customer behavior is that AI can do it for you. And I think if you go to any conference or any data sort of presentation, AI is mentioned 5 times in every sentence. And AI is absolutely great. It's changing the way we do things. It's got loads of great uses, great benefits. We are an AI organization, so I would be silly if I sat here and told you that it's not going to improve the way that things are done. But importantly, it doesn't do it on its own. And I think the biggest myth, and I've seen this too often, is people deploy AI platforms onto their data and they ask it questions. And surprise, surprise, they get wrong, rubbish answers. So I think the biggest myth is that AI can answer your customer sort of understanding, and it can't. It needs to work in conjunction with, and a lot of people say this, but it's true, in conjunction with business strategy, number one. What are you trying to achieve for your brand with AI? Number two, with people to really create frameworks for the AI to work in. So how does this apply to my business and the way that I need it to? What is my objective for our customers? How do we want to deliver that to them? And then you deploy AI. It's at the end of that. And ultimately, you give it all the rules and guardrails and set up the data in a way that solves a specific problem. I think people keep thinking that AI is the answer without knowing what the problem is. That's my answer to that one.
All right, I like it. So just plugging in an AI tool is not enough. You need the setup and the consultancy and the human element.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think you need to understand why you want AI. So you've got to know what your business problem is that you're solving, whether it's operational efficiencies, whether it's stock replenishment. It's a case of I've got too much waste. There's a great example of where AI is already doing a great job. So ultimately, you've got a lot of stock replenishment. You know your lead times for an order. You know how long stock lasts, and when you need to sell through. AI works brilliantly in that space, but the objective didn't start with, "Hey, AI, improve my stock replenishment." It came with, "My waste is too high. Let's find a way of deploying intelligence that helps me reduce that and improve my availability on shelf at the same time." That's a really specific business problem and strategic question that you need to go in with, and then AI will solve it. I think too often we start from, we need AI to sort out our customer strategy, and you go, that's not going to happen. What are we doing? How are we doing it? And that's where people and frameworks come in. And we do a lot of that as a business. So we've got frameworks for loyalty, which is how do you start to monetize, get suppliers to fund your loyalty program? You don't just say, I want suppliers to fund my loyalty program. You have to say how, what's in it for them, what's the benefit to them. And ultimately, they want to gain share in their category. So ultimately, you set your loyalty program up with mechanics and ways so that they can buy into offers and funding offers and deals that will grow share for their category. What we do is then create the smarts, the intelligence, the AI that make sure it works. So make sure, okay, who do you target with these offers that is going to grow their category share and then make it work? So that's where the people and the smarts come together.
Okay, so where we sit in 2025, you still do need human consultants to come in and help you configure AI and figure out what you want.
Exactly that. I think the only time you don't is where there is a lot of data points and there are a lot of repeat outcomes. I think there's a lot around predictive maintenance right now. I think in operations, we're doing more and more where AI can sort of work more autonomously. But in predictive maintenance, where you've got failures and the failures occur regularly, and you've got loads of data points of machinery that ultimately feeds into that, your outcome is simple: like predict when something's likely to fail and create an intervention. So I think in that space, it's really, really good. But outside of that, in retail specifically, I'd say across buying and merchandising and trading, there is a lot of art to go with the science and a lot of resistance still. There's still a lot of art in buying teams working with their suppliers, having human relationships, managing those relationships, having fact-based negotiations. So in terms of negotiating the best deals with a supplier, that still has to be driven by data. I think that it's gone in that space, but it's still done with people having conversations and agreeing on a deal. And that's where AI is less relevant. And I think on its own. And I think similarly in marketing, Google is kind of AI, isn't it? Like, just let PMax do the job for you. That's AI in action. Our algorithms will find the right people. I fundamentally disagree with that. And I disagree sort of with just people trusting PMax and Google to manage their marketing campaigns. It should come back to, what's my strategy? What are the audiences and who are the people that I'm targeting with what objective? And then you can leverage your own first party data. And you can also leverage other ways of finding those customers in the right space.
Right.
And amplifying and training Google to do a good job. That still requires people. So it's definitely a blend. There are some areas where AI can do more, and there's definitely areas where I think people need to be in it a lot more than they are.
Yeah, and we've discussed a few times on the podcast that, Google in itself is a platform that will recommend that you spend more with Google. Now, ultimately, your aim is to acquire customers. So there's a bit of a conflict there.
Yeah, exactly that. Google's recommendation to anything is, my ROAS is down and I'm not performing as well. Spend more with Google. I'm doing really well and my campaigns are growing. How do I make them more efficient? Spend more with Google. So yeah, you've got to make sure that you understand your strategy and targeting strategy, where your customers are, and be balanced around how Google's used. I think if you're investing quite heavily in performance media, and that's where a lot of your marketing spend is going.
So how do you talk about profit optimization in retail without sounding like you're squeezing shoppers at a time when every penny matters?
It's got to be a win-win, I think. The reality is cost price increases are really hitting retailers hard and consumers hard right now. Yep. Inflation's high. The pressure on people spending is more intense than ever. Competition is high. So what I'd say really for retailers right now is they're going to have to put some of those cost price increases through to consumers. Otherwise, they won't maintain a healthy business. But you've got to do that in an intelligent way, and that's got to be data-driven. So where does price matter to customers? Where do you need to be competitive against your competitors? And ultimately, where can you inflate? Customers will notice and feel it less. Ideally in discretionary items, where you know that the people that are buying those have got more discretionary income to buy into those products. Your core value lines, where you really need to be competitive, that's where you need to protect it. But ultimately, retailers also have to increase their maintain their margins during cost price increases. So it's tricky. It's a really tricky market right now. A lot of our clients are all facing into those challenges. A lot of them are value-based retailers. And so within that, what we're seeing more and more is how we can help them maintain competitive value and the edge, but also flow some cost price increases through that ultimately are going to hit the consumer.
Okay. So challenging to talk around that, but you need to make hay with the higher value product while keeping value strong.
Yeah, and there's still a real role for premiumization at the minute. The premium brands are doing well. What happens often at times like this is the people that don't have less, but the people that have kind of enjoy it. And so premiumization is really interesting. Looking at how you can create margin from sort of your better tiers, but then thinking about how you remain really price competitive across good and better is important in this type of market.
Gotcha. Let's talk a bit about Hyperfinity. So 4 co-founders all coming together, working on our little products to help brands sell the right products to the right people at the right price. What was the moment that brought you together?
It was an interesting moment. I think we'd all tired of the corporate world for different reasons. My own personal reason was I hated the politics of big corporates. What I find really frustrating is we all worked for the same company, yet we seem to be competing and battling each other to ultimately beat the next retailer. I grew tired of that. But what I also saw was, and what we all saw as a group, was we sat in the pub where all great businesses start, and we said, we can see big consultants coming in charging a lot of money to do, in essence, repeatable data solutions that should be in the hands of the decision maker. That's where we started. So coming in and telling the trading teams how they should reprice at a point in time, so the start of the year, charging £2 million for the privilege, and then going away. And then ultimately, 6 months later, your range has changed, your prices have changed, negotiations have happened again. Well, what happens? We'll go, well, you need us back, and we'll do it again. And we were like, well, wait a minute. These solutions and these analysis ultimately are the same every time. If we put a front end on that, so that the decision maker doesn't have to be a data scientist, they are somebody that can use data science to apply that, but ultimately just interact with a tool and a front end. Then they can just reprice at any point in time, and they don't need these big consultants and big consultancy projects to keep happening. So that was one. And we looked at that and we were like, well, is it possible? It was at the same time where cloud computing, big fast data was starting to happen. The analytical techniques which you needed to run range optimization, ultimately comparing two products and how substitutable they are, took days to run in Teradata, so on-prem Teradata, which a lot of retail businesses were at the time. Some still are. And what was happening is moving into cloud compute and also sort of big fast data at that time, we realized that in different technologies, we could run those in minutes, and then we got some things down to seconds that were taking days. So it was those two moments of saying, wait a minute, someone can press a button in a tool and that will be done for them in a minute. Whereas currently we're relying on days worth of data scientists and analysts to run it. But two, just thinking about how things were being done for range optimization, for price optimization today. These point in time, almost taken away from the people that are day-to-day running each category and in grocery. So if you're looking after beers, wines and spirits, and then somebody comes in and just tells you how to price it, that's frustrating. You sort of want to set your strategy. You want the data and the facts so you can negotiate with your suppliers. But then at the same time, if you know you've got too much or too little stock in a seasonal range in another category, how do you reprice that? And what are the smarts that you need? And if you can interact with a tool that does this, so you don't brief the data science team and go, what do I need to reprice these products to? So we're going to get an answer in 3 days. By that point, it's too late. You can ask something which we're saying runs in minutes and seconds, and that could be really powerful. So really, that was the start. I think one final thing I'll say is we noted that we were solving different people's problems with the same technique, and that was affinity analytics at the time. So that was looking at range optimization, price optimization, and customer personalization. And when you think about the same technique solves 3 different verticals problems, 3 different sort of areas, that could be in one tool, and that could be really, really powerful. So ultimately what sits at the heart of our platform now, the easiest way I describe it is Spotify for retail, and ultimately looks at customers' interactions with products and product interactions with each other, and the same techniques which tell you how likely something is to be bought with another item and how competitive that item is with another item. And as soon as you do that, you go, well, you can make recommendations because product A is bought with product B, recommend product B when you buy product A. You can make substitutions. Product C is substitutable for product A, switch it out. Goes into range. So ultimately, if product A and product C are substitutable and product C's sales are really low, you don't need it in your range. And that's just a short example of how actually the same techniques were solving different areas, problems. So we thought repetitive problems being solved by the same solution and can be done at real speed at the same time that we're all getting slightly tired of corporate life and wanted a new challenge was kind of how we started.
Awesome. And has that been a smooth journey from the conceiving of this platform that puts power back in the buyer's hands to it becoming the Spotify for retail?
No, never is it? I think we started the business with the view that we would because initially our view was we would consult ourselves, but just do things differently to the big consultants. But quickly we looked at technology and where it was going and felt like we had a product. The idea behind the start of the business was that we would consult on drive income into the business that created the revenue that we'd use to build the product. And I think the first thing that happened is we just took too long. We ended up consulting for too long, and the product took too long to be created, because as soon as a client has a need, we were just pulled off to meet the client need. That's how you have to work if you're a consultancy. So that was the first bump that we had. I think the second bump really was that we thought the product would just stand alone. And this was a real good learning for us as well, that it would stand alone. We could put it in the decision makers' hands and they would love using a front end and being empowered. What we found was data science and AI is never a one-size-fits-all solution. Every single team has a slightly different need, a slightly different way of doing business, which I'll say when it's slightly, it makes a fundamental shift to what a standard solution would look like. So really what we found is the model and the blend of people plus tech, which is what we still are really clear about now in terms of our offering, and that's how we think we differ. So what we say is 70% of the product is there, ready to go, off the shelf. You've got your range optimization algorithms, you've got your price optimization algorithms, you've got your personalization, your next best action algorithms. But the people side of it is we need to come in and we need to understand your business. How does it work today? How do we need to adapt that and reconfigure things and build guardrails and rules in so it works for your business? For example, SaaS pricing platforms work beautifully if you're a pure play e-com retailer with Amazon as your key competitor. Because if you're selling TVs, you've got a barcode, you know it's a Sony, very specific product. You can compare Amazon price. You can look at how much stock you've got. You know how out of line to Amazon you are. You know how price sensitive that line is. Change the price, yes or no. That works. If you're an omni-channel, bricks and mortar and e-com business with a complex supply chain, you have trading teams that have different buying cycles, multi-category. So all your different trading teams have different buying cycles, different seasonality, and you try and put a platform in that serves all of them at the same time, it fails. And we've seen it fail. So what you have to do really then is you configure it. So we talk about 70-30, sometimes 80-20, which is 70% of it's there, but 30% will configure with you, with our people. And the second thing I think from this that we learned was people don't like to do data science and AI on their own. They want you to guide them, give you frameworks, work with the teams to embed the solutions, integrate it in the processes, and almost sit alongside the teams until it's then there and embedded and working and they've got it. If you simply hand over a tool and go, change everything that you're doing in terms of your pricing process or ranging strategy, it just doesn't embed. So I think that was the third learning that we really had, and we stuck to that today. So our tech platform, we deliver alongside our consultants, and so almost that we've flipped reverse where we started. We started as a consultancy with the intention to be a tech business. We didn't become a tech business, and we've ended up as a tech business which is supported by consultancy.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I think probably a lot of SaaS companies have like an embedding period or a upfront fee for configuration. Is yours ongoing consultancy that strengthens the platform?
Yeah, it is. I think there's definitely an upfront challenge, which is integration, embedding it, getting everything live. Normally with us, that's about 12 weeks. But what we tend to find is the need for our support in terms of how you then embed that, how you change your strategic objectives as a result of it is ongoing. And the way in which it tends to work is we sort of first year, sometimes 2 years, we have quite a lot of support. So we could have 1, 2, 3 people working alongside the business. Yep. But then that lessens over time. So after your first year, what you should have is enough of the framework, systems, new processes embedded, and teams start to build around it because they realize it can be a real profit engine as well. So supplier funded mechanics, for example. So at the minute, think about a loyalty program. If you're a grocer, you've got categories and you see offers in your app. Most of us should have a club card app because you can't shop in Tesco unless you've got it because it's too expensive. But within that, you see prices and you see your own individual personalised prices. And really, you can get suppliers to fund that. But just going to suppliers and going, do you want to fund some offers? Some suppliers will fund it, some won't, and you'll kind of make some progress with that. What you need is a framework and a way in which you optimize that. So what we created in our framework is you buy into 4 mechanics and they are always on. So you get buy again. And this is if you buy that product or you've bought it before and you're likely to buy it again, then that's a buy again mechanic. That all comes from Affinity Analytics, by the way. If you're a cross sell, so I've never bought it before. Brands love this, by the way, but I am assigned to it. So people like me also buy that product. That's a cross sell. Brands like that, because that's category share, category steal. There are other ones like upsell, win back, etc., etc. But let's just focus on buy again and cross sell. What you have to set up is a structure where you send customers a buy again and a cross sell offer every single week as a grocer.
Yeah.
And that has to happen. Once you've got that and customers get used to knowing that they've got those offers, you then say to suppliers, would you like to fund these offers that are going out on a weekly basis?
Nice.
This is how much it costs to buy into that. You pay for the offer. What we will do is we'll target it and we'll make sure it goes to the right people and we'll measure it and show you that it's working. Now, ultimately, if we just say to people, we've got the platform to do that, retailers go, great. But when we put the people in alongside them to go, right, we're going to work with your media team who are responsible to face out to the suppliers to sell it, and we'll help them package it up. The next thing is we'll run the selections for you. So we'll look at who the audience should be. We'll look at the return that we're expecting to get, and you can present that back to the suppliers. And then the final bit is we'll measure it for you. And that's where our people come in, because measurement can be, yes, it's in a platform. Yes, if you structure the campaigns in a certain way, it's semi-automated. But there's always going to be more ways in which you need to analyze and understand data. So that's where our people fit in. That's where strategically having the framework and having a business like ours work alongside you with our people to embed it works. Ultimately then, year 2, year 3, the retailer might be doing the measurement themselves because it's all working, that program is embedded. And then within the audience builder in our platform, what we want to get people to is that then they're selecting those audiences themselves as well. But at the start, there's a lot of nervousness around. You get that targeting wrong, which we've all done in the past. I've got stories around that. But you get that targeting wrong and the supplier actually gets no return, or you burn all of their budget in one campaign and that's not gone right. So really helping, this is the people plus tech bit, helping the retailer not just leverage the clever AI, but in a way that works for them, the supplier, the customer benefits because they get better offers. That's kind of how we see it work really, really well.
Well, tell me about some of those war stories.
There's a couple of those war stories. One of my first ones, actually, one of my first jobs was Littlewoods Home Shopping, now Very. So when I worked there, I went in and cut in my teeth as a sort of junior analyst, and I built the propensity model that targeted the Littlewoods catalogue. And for those of an age that remember, like the new catalogue drop when it came to your house, and you could go through the book and find the new trainers that you wanted your mum to buy you, was a big moment. But ultimately, the modelling. And by the way, catalogue businesses were first-party data businesses way before any of the world that we live in today. They were doing everything that we're doing today in a much more slow and laborious way, but all the modelling techniques were similar. But targeting the catalogue is basically who's going to respond to the catalogue if you give it to them. Don't waste money on people that aren't even going to open it or look at it. And how much are they going to spend when they open it? So it was a 2-stage model. So likelihood to respond and likelihood to spend. And I built that and I targeted it. And I remember it was in SAS at the time. And I basically ranked it. So I ranked the scores to say who should get the catalogue, and we had a cut-off. And it was 500 catalogue, common the number, but 500 catalogues. Cut it off at 500, sent it to the mail house. They've got a lead time of 3 or 4 days. Sort of went home that night, like nice tea, came back the next morning. Just, you have one of those moments, I think, in the night I had one of those moments where I went, wait a minute, did I rank that the right way around? And basically, what's a good propensity, high or low? And I went in panicking, thinking, have I got it wrong? Have I got it wrong? I'd ranked it the opposite way around. So we were about to send catalogues out to the least likely, but the biggest multi-million-pound investment that you made twice or four times a year, for the company, to the worst people. So I was about to blow sort of 50% of the marketing budget for the whole year. So I panicked, might have cried a little bit, and basically my boss at the time came over and went, "It's all right. We'll ring the mail house, put it on pause." Spent a day reworking that model to get it right, and then ultimately we did manage to fix that and get away with it. So, but I'm sure every data scientist or person working in AI will have one of those stories where what they thought their model was going to do it didn't, or you put one comma in the wrong place and things don't go the way you expect them to.
Yeah, great. Great and terrifying. So are there, when from your time at Asda, which I'm guessing is a lot of the genesis of Hyperfinity, your founders worked there together. Were there any tech integrations or system integrations that didn't go well that color the way you now help to implement Hyperfinity?
Yeah, I think I'm a big fan of composable CDPs in this day and age. So smaller integrations of solutions that solve a specific problem, and that are easier to stand up. There were way too many large enterprise projects that seemed to go on and on. Certainly when I was at Asda, that never focused on the outcome. They always focused on capability.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest one. So if you remember the day, we were moving to the data lake. And I looked after Insight, customer data and Insight at the time. And IT came to us and they said, "We're building a data lake, so this is what we're going to put in it. And when we've built it, you can get access to it and do all of your analysis and modeling." And I went, "Great. So what are the first use cases for it?" And they were like, "Oh, no, we're putting the data in there, and then we'll work out the use cases." And I was like, "Well, do you need all the data in there? Because I think of 5 projects that I've got right now that if we could just accelerate them and you could give me access to that, we could improve like the efficiency of some of our availability scores and stock levels in store, but also our targeting to customers." And they're like, "No, like just what you need to know is what data do you need in there?" And so we responded with that. And I reckon that project went on for a year, maybe 2 years, and then cloud happened. And they went,
no.
we're not doing the data lake anymore. Everything needs to be in the cloud." And I went, "And what have we achieved in those 2 years?" And they were like, "Well, a lot of spend on IT, and we've got lots of people in a job in IT, so we're happy." And I was like, "And has anyone used that?" No, they hadn't. And I think so that, do you know what? I mean, it's improved, but then the same thing happened again with which cloud are we going to be in? Let's put the lake in the sky instead, and let's go through the same process. I'm a real big believer in the composable CDP. Suppliers,
can you just explain that term?
Yeah, so in terms of within a marketing system, you've in essence got your data source, so often your cloud, so whether it's AWS, Azure, GCP, sort of fits within that. But once you've got that, so once you've got your lake in the sky, what you then need to do is different providers to sit on top of that and to integrate with that to do their specific part of the puzzle. So you've got customer experience platforms, so the likes of Bloomreach, Braze, those types of companies, which ultimately orchestrate customer data into campaigns. So you can do all of your media targeting, your push notifications, your email. But then you've got a lot of infrastructure and systems within that. So that's the kind of the bones of it. But then if you want to do retail media and retail media monetization, what do? Well, you bring in another system which specializes in that. You don't try and, my view, you don't try and get an Adobe that says it can do everything. You end up back in that IT, we're building a data lake space. Yeah. You go, who's got a platform that can unlock retail media with me and integrate with my website because I just want to get banners monetized really, really quickly. And if somebody, one points provider comes in and does that little bit as part of your CDP, then bring them in. Don't try and do it all at once. And similarly, like Hyperfinity's role within this is the intelligence platform. So in essence, we would sit between the experience platform and the data platform. So we take the data from source and then we add our AI and smarts onto it and then provide it to the likes of Bloomreach so that it can execute more intelligent campaigns on the audiences that you've got. So I think that's where I'd say. I'd also say start, and this is the same thing when I talked about AI at the start of this call. Start with the use case and the business problem, not with how can AI solve this. How we need a data lake. Yeah, no, you don't start there. You start with what are the big business strategic initiatives that we are going to unlock. What's the value against those, and then how much of this data do we need to unlock that? And what you get as part of a composable CDP is you only have to share small amounts of data, not all of your data, to do specific parts of this. And really democratizing data, and potentially I think where retailers are going, and it's an interesting world actually. It's definitely where retail was going, but it's slightly changing. But democratizing your data so that you can have those point providers doing their specialist bit is where it's going. What's also happening in the world right now, as you're probably aware, is a lot of cyber issues and cybersecurity. I wish I'd started a cybersecurity business 5 years ago. I think I'd be doing quite well right now. But within that space, low copy and no copy environments where you can share your data, but it's not moving, is going to be really important for retailers, because they still want specialists to come in and do things on their data, but creating 50 different copies of it in different places just opens up bigger threats. And definitely no retailer wants to be doing that with PII. I think you'll be seeing a massive movement of personal information, which is locked down in a single environment within the retailer. But then elements of that data that can be shared, especially the not less sensitive data, with providers that can really unlock value from it, I think is going to be important. So that's where I think things are going. So that's still relevant, but ultimately I think that data movement is going to become less and less in a world, and everyone working in cyber right now is laughing.
When you walk into a retailer or you look at a retailer online, what are the telltale signs that their data strategy is broken?
The key ones are, I always think there's three. We always talk about the three key levers of a successful retailer. One is ease. It's easy to interact with the retailer. Second one's speed. I can get what I want and I can get it really, really quick. Humans are impatient. And the third one is value. So value for money. And I think it's, if one of those three things are really broken, you feel it immediately. So if I'm on a website, I'm like, why can I not find what I'm looking for here? This is too hard. Why is my search not bringing back things that I'm expecting it to? And then an additional one in terms of data strategy is like, again, there's been sort of big. What does speed look like? Used to look like how easy it is to walk around a store, check out. So queues used to be the measure of speed in a traditional store, still are. No one wants to be stood at a checkout for ages. So when you're there, and I think those three levers, by the way, you balance them. If you absolutely smash value out of the park, people are willing to wait longer for it. Primark would be the great example of that. You'll queue longer in Primark and you'll queue longer in Aldi. Aldi, that's a supermarket, not the car manufacturer. That's my Leicester intonation for you. Because you focused on value, but the three are really critical. So the main thing that I find is I get frustrated. I can't find what I want, but value is the last one. So if people aren't using data to drive their pricing strategy, I always think it feels expensive on things that you want to buy, and you feel it straight away. So you go, how much? How much is that? Like, really? So I think they're the key ones. So basically it's friction, and that friction can occur trying to find something that you want to buy, number one, getting that thing that you want to buy, either walking out of the store with it or getting it delivered to you. And then the final one is a price that you want to pay. And if a retailer's got it all right, that's seamless and you don't even notice it. I think it's easy the other way, by the way. You don't notice it when a retailer's got it right. You do notice it when they've got it wrong.
Very cool. What's the most ridiculous gut decision you've seen a retailer make, despite your recommendations or despite against the data?
Oh, wow. I mean, that used to happen on a daily basis. Gut decision. Do you know what? I tend to find gut decisions are often better than data, because normally if someone's brave enough to go against the data, there's normally a good reason, and they're quite experienced in their. So I can't think of a good example. One thing I will say that I do see in retail a lot is mature retailers that are managing a small decline make all the wrong decisions that are anti-data. That happens a lot. So that's almost the opposite of gut. That's I'm doing it in spite of you telling me
bonus.
data. Yeah. So, and it happens way too often in terms of managing the P&L, and it's often with listed companies. I think there's got to be something around company resets that must change, or companies in transformation.
Yeah.
You can't always do that and maintain growth. And so what often happens, and I'll kind of give you a few examples, which is we can easily present that the late deliveries were the number one reason why people would churn for a home shopping delivery. And then the retailer, or our retailer, might be obvious which, but would then go, yeah, we've got to cut costs, so we're going to reduce the hours into delivery, and then late deliveries will get worse. And you go, because we've got to hit a profit number. And then lo and behold, your sales line declines and it continues to creep down, and you have that slow death. And at some point, you have to go, let's stop this cost cutting, taking experience out, and prices up, and and reset in some way. And it's interesting at what point you kind of, if you can model that, it'd be like a good exercise actually, because it gets so difficult. And so I think I've seen a lot of examples, just one example there, but that could be almost on a daily basis, that you present how you can get the sales line going back up, but it's an investment and you've got to trust the sales will come. Yeah. And retailers always go against that decision. They go, no, I need it today, so I'm going to cut costs because then my margin's there. But then what happens is it's just that continual decline. So you don't see enough gut, Jamie, I think is what I'd say. And I think I want people to be more brave with decisions like that, and trust the data more.
Yeah. A lot of this behavior in large retailers, and I'm thinking back to my time at Procter & Gamble, where there's no way we could have forecasted a decline or anything. That wasn't allowed. A lot of it is just cognitive safety, right? People needing to keep their jobs and needing to project the right things rather than what their business actually needs and what is going to be the case. How do you help them?
Yeah, I think the best you can do is present evidence and value cases. That's the challenge. We do it a lot as well, because we're an investment generally. Like, do you want to invest in some technology? You don't do that thinking it might work. You're going to go, well, what value are we going to drive? How are we going to drive it? And I think that ultimately you have to look at everything as an investment case within a retailer as well. So if they're looking at technology and they've got a problem that they need to solve, you've got to look at how you invest in technology to solve that, but then project, like, well, what do I need to see and when do I need to see it? Is it a 6-month time horizon? Is it a 12-month time horizon? Is it a 6-week time horizon? And as long as you can go in and you can have that, when do we know if this is working or not? I think that's the most important piece when looking at any technology, is to have a clear view as to what value is it going to change, what cost is it going to reduce, or what top line is it going to create? And then let's measure ourselves against that. So measurement is really important, which is why, again, what's the measurement of a successful data lake? It's on time and on budget. It wasn't even that, Jamie.
Amazing. Tell me about, we touched on loyalty. Can you tell me about a really cool loyalty execution you've helped with that was a game changer?
I think the main one in terms of where things are going at the minute is getting suppliers to fund offers and then ultimately reducing costs. So, and where retail media is going. So, like one of the retailers we worked with, they ultimately had A lot of money invested into loyalty. But getting suppliers on board and getting them bought into this is exciting. You can get access to your customers and your competitors' customers and fund that. It really is just another example of how you can create an income stream and a profit engine from loyalty. It's got to work though. So it's got to be customer first. So you can't just go, here's 20 offers from brands and suppliers that you really don't want to buy or don't care about. Yeah, it's that the customer doesn't win because why are you getting me to try and buy this nonsense? The brand doesn't win because generally you don't buy it, and the retailer doesn't win because it's just brand degradation in terms of the customer experience. So when it really works well is you get real good offers on things that customers want to buy and things that they didn't know they wanted to buy from you, importantly. Because in a world of inflation and cost price pressure, you're talking about winning share of wallet rather than discretional spend in the main. So you want more of that money coming to you. If someone's in the mission that they're going to purchase that mission anyway, you want it to be with you. So I think we're seeing loads of supplier funding coming into loyalty. So why pay for your loyalty offers when your suppliers want to pay for them for you is one. And then within retail media, there's loads going on in that space right now, and that's just pure profit. It's like 90% margin if you get it right. You've got assets, you've got a website, you've got customers that generally people want to speak to, and that you can do that. So yeah, I can't share. I've got all the nice examples that were in my head. I probably can't share with you, but I'll tell you what I do like, and it's not us. So that I do quite like the way that Sainsbury's are looking at member pricing at the minute and giving the option to customers as to which ones that they select, and that's the same principle. So they will have blended in a level of cross-sell and buy again offers, but giving customer control over which ones that they pick is ticks one massive problem that you get with loyalty, and that's engagement in the app. So if you've got a reason to engage with the app, you've got a media asset and a digital asset that you can then monetize. You can get suppliers to fund those offers, and it works really, really well. So we do all of that. I can't say we do it for Sainsbury's, but if you're listening to Sainsbury's, we can do that brilliantly and better and make it work for you. But yeah, I think
you can't talk about Asda and Costa and Card Factory and Toolstation that you work with, but we can use other examples to talk about how you might work with your current customers.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think, one of the learnings I think we had from Costa and working with those guys is on treat drop. So looking after their treat drop and who receives which treat. We went too hard really at the start on cross-sell. So that's sort of what I can say. So too hard on cross-sell, which is we're focusing on incremental spend and trying to get people to buy things that they don't ordinarily buy. But if you think about when you're buying coffee, that's not, the range isn't that big. There's not that much you can buy. There has to be a mix of buy again and cross sell. I think that's really important. Yep. Reward me for things I love and I want and I always buy, and then inspire me with things that I might love and might want to try. And getting that balance right is really, really important. It's the same across all retail types as well. So groceries the same. With that Sainsbury's piece that I just talked about, they'll have a mixture of things that you buy, but there'll be a small amount that they can select from because they're not going to get incremental demand from that. And then a list of things that you either buy infrequently or you don't buy at all, but you think you'll like. And if you get that bit right and you get that mix right, it rewards customers, it inspires customers because they're going, "Oh, I'll try that. Oh, I've not thought about trying that, but that looks nice." As opposed to getting a load of offers where you go, "Well, that's not relevant, and I'll never buy that. Why are you showing me that?" That's the last thing that you want to do.
Right. Cool. How far away really from true one-to-one retail personalization, and what's holding that back?
We did an event on this about 3 weeks ago with Bloomreach and Eagle Eye. The main thing is how much manual intervention it takes to run campaigns one-to-one. So there's two elements to that. One is setting up the offers. Two is having the digital and image assets enabled to display dynamically to customers. It's really hard. So you can design, and we learnt this, by the way, because we design the next best action decisions one-to-one. And we had this conversation. So one of our clients, we turned around and went, right, so we've got 20,000 offer combinations that we want to run on test. So let's get going with that. And they went, we can set up 20. We were like, oh, 20. Can we maybe make it 50? So one, and because it's manual, like typing in, creating the offers. So one thing on your back is just creation of offers.
Yeah.
That's solved, by the way. So we did this event, our relationship with Eagle Eye. So we solved that through having an offer bank. Yeah, having an offer bank that you can manage, which has got your pound off, percent off, £10 off 50, £20 off 100, whatever those offers are, a bank of them that live. What you then want is your product and your categories that you want to apply to a customer. What's a buy again? And when we combine that in our engine, what you get is this customer is really price sensitive. They are a large basket shopper, so we're going to give them £20 off 100, which is our richest offer, and we're going to give them 10% off these 3 products. Now, try and orchestrate that. It's really, really hard if it's not automated. So what we do is we send that to Eagle Eye. All of those offers get generated from the offer bank that exists between both of us. And once you've got that, they're then applied to the customer. You then need to orchestrate that. And so the customer needs to know what their offers are and what they've got. So that goes into Bloomreach within this example and this integration. So we send that to Bloomreach. Those all become fields within Bloomreach that then get dynamically populated. And what Bloomreach can do is pull in the assets against those. We can show you the categories, show you the products because we've got all the imagery available. And then we can create and show the offers that you've got against it. That, I think, is now, so that was the problem. And that bit in the middle of automatically setting up offers, and showing the customer what they've got were the barriers. And ultimately, it kept coming back to, here's 20,000 variants of a next best action, and you end up with 20 of them. So I think that was the barrier. I think we're overcoming it through partnerships and in that way, and I think that will solve it. The other thing then, though, is, I always say this, is you need to get buy-in and strategic alignment and trust in next best action. So what happens with one-to-one is you send it out and everyone's really, it's an emotional one, right? No longer, we're taking away control from the marketeer. And the marketing director goes, okay, fine. Like I've always had control over what messages I send and who I'm sending them to. And so what happens, and I tell you this, you always get the one rubbish recommendation that is found, and they'll use it as if every recommendation is the worst in the world. This customer was a single man, and he got an advert for nappies. And you go, right, let's spend 3 days analysing that, which we will, and you do, okay? And you go, right, it turns out that he'd also bought baby powder and baby oil. I'm not going to ask why. But that's why he's got it. What you've missed is the 482,000 other recommendations, which were absolutely fine. And I think that's another barrier, which is you've got to trust many ways that there are always going to be bad recommendations. Yeah. And we have guardrails. We always say this, let's put a guardrail in. Every time you find one, we add a guard. This is why the configurability of our platform, add a guardrail. And so what you say is, like, if your gender is male, you can never be served baby. Like, you might get into that. I'm not saying that is a good guardrail. That's sexist and wrong. But all I'm saying is when you get recommendations in that way, the right guardrails help. And so good guardrails were good. Don't send me an offer on top of my birthday offer if we know we've got one going out. It's a good guardrail, right? Don't double promote. Things like that. So that's what I'd say is we always build guardrails in. But you've got to make sure that strategically everyone's bought in again. They know what it is. And the most important part, Jamie, is measurement. because that's ultimately the crux of how you go. There's 3 bad recommendations in 3,000, but it's driving this level of incrementality to your bottom line. Your retention of and loyalty of your customers are growing. This is a good thing to do ultimately, and that's how you win hearts and minds. Ultimately, we talk a lot about winning the argument with the CFO for loyalty. So finance always see loyalty as a cost line. It's always the L to them on P&L. So you have to go really clearly with, no, this is the P. This is what we're doing. You don't just do that with, trust me, you do that with really clear measurement on the back of it, measurement techniques, and really aligned to strategically what you're looking to achieve.
That's great, Tom. Can I ask you the same questions that we ask all of our guests? Obviously you've been in retail, you've now moved into a retail analytics platform and consultancy. What retailer detail do you like the most?
Ask me that one again, sorry.
I think I got it the wrong way around. What detail of retail do you like the most?
What detail of retail? I think I like getting really granular on customer understanding, and customer understanding from a marketing perspective and a personalisation perspective. I think retailers' details are often assigned to ops, and making sure that, because it really is, you make small changes operationally to product availability on shelf, waste, logistics, and you get big cost savings. So it's absolutely to the fore there. But I really enjoy a personalisation model where you don't just create recommendations, but you show the customer insight as to why you're doing it. You run a campaign on the back of it, and you see a really good uplift, and it's explainable. And I think a lot of AI these days, a lot isn't explainable. It's black box, and you go, the campaign's working. But when you can link it back to, this was the customer, this was the campaign aim, this is how we went about targeting it, and this is the result of it, then it's really, really good. And I love diving into how we can leverage our 70% to do the 30%, and I like that a lot. So just a quick good example is we're working with Morrison's at the minute, and they've got a basket stretch campaign, and ultimately they want to reward customers at different times of the year, and they want to ultimately, it's a case of, don't shop with Aldi, do all of your shop with Morrison's. And so how do you do that? Well, when we got into it, it's not just going, what's your average basket size? There is loads of real, and I won't give away all the secret sauce because we've done some really cool stuff there. But there's always really great stuff to say, well, this is what we think your headroom is as an individual customer, and loads of science in that. And when you sit there in front of a team and you explain, if you just take an average, this is what you do to try and kind of win more share of retailers, of customer spend within your retailer. But if you look individually at these different customer groups, well, this is the opportunity here, and this is the opportunity. It's different for everybody. And when you explain that, and we look at it, and we looked at the ROI of the campaigns, and this is really important, and we saw how much money was being just given away, auto rewarding customers, because of a sort of fairly generic offer. And then when you change that and you show the difference in ROI when you're tailored, it's really, really great, and it's much more accessible. So reducing customer complaints as well, because if I'm a low spender and I get a really high sort of spend target, you go, well, I'm just not interested in that. It's like, I'm never going to achieve that. It's not going to do anything for me. And if you get something that's achievable, you go, great, I'm in again. So stuff like that, just when you see and you can explain it from a customer perspective, that really excites me.
That's cool. And what detail of retail would you most want to change?
I think it's hard. Like, I'm going to talk quite hypothetically now, but I think for me, I really struggle with this still, even sort of as an agency looking in and working with clients, which is business units working in silos and against each other. So I think you still see it far too often, which is people are too focused on their silo and the politics that exist as a result of that, get people making the wrong decisions for the wrong reasons. and I'd like to see data especially democratized across retail units. So I'm talking about specifically ops, trading, and marketing. I think are three areas where you often see, well, I'm not hitting my sales target in trading because marketing have promoted less of my products this year.
Yeah.
And marketing will go, well, we've given away too much margin because we sent an offer out, but trading put a load of promotions on at the same time. And ops going, well, I'm out of stock because no one told me that mine was going to get promoted. And I think I'd love to see that blame turn to how we can work together with a unified data set, which goes, how did promotions affect availability? How did our price changes this year counteract our margin? How much additional margin is marketing giving away? And when you've all got that data together, I think it can be a much better sort of retail operation entirely.
Yes. Avoid the politics you saw it as the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know this is honestly everywhere. I think I'm still astounded by how much politics you get in a retail environment. I liken it to football crowds.
Yeah.
And I kind of go, well, I'm a Leicester City supporter, and when I'm at the Leicester ground, you're always like chanting at the away fans, like, "Who are you?" with some choice language mixed in with that. And then you go, brilliant. And then what's interesting though is then you go and watch England, and the same fans all come together and go, "Who are you?" with more choice language. To the opposite. Within retail, I'm like, why are we pretending like we're a different football team? Yeah. We're the same football team. We're trying to beat those over there. What's going on? But yeah. So it's I do see it, and I see it quite a lot. I love psychology, but it's clearly something in human nature that causes it. But it does tire me out. And I think data can help break. Data can help break down those silos.
Right. The way people are incentivized is the way they're going to behave.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
What's your most controversial prediction for the future of retail?
Controversial prediction. I don't think it's controversial. I think what we'll see is more automation through AI. So I think AI will take on roles where it costs retailers money to have people. So you read a lot in the Daily Mail, especially around AI is going to take people's jobs. It's not AI taking people's jobs, it's robotics. And it's been, let's go very much in the past. Like the loom took a load of people's jobs because it automated a process that people did, right? Self-checkouts, that's not AI. Okay? That's a computer. So computers are taking people's jobs, robotics in factories and car manufacturing plants. And I think through sort of delivery and autonomous delivery, you'll see that more in the fore. So anything that's repetitive, it will ultimately take people's jobs. But what I think is controversial is I'm going to say I think there'll be as many jobs created as lost through AI in retail. We just need to be careful to make sure that they are the right skills and the right people redeployed to do that. And then I think the other thing that'll be interesting within the retail space is I think what social selling has done has really unlocked the ability for very small players, tiny, almost lifestyle businesses to compete with the big brands. And I think there'll be a massive shift in terms of how performance media is spent. And I think, here's my wild prediction, I think Google have got 5 years before they are going to be overtaken in terms of where people are going to be putting most of their media spend, because they're not embracing how retailers want to optimize their income. And then it's not a win. It's stopping being a win-win with Google now. Google used to advertise with them. It costs you money and you make money. Now it's changing. It's unprofitable. And so I think that's if you want my really wild prediction, that's that one. I'm going to put it out there.
Awesome.
What will come to the fore is, sorry, I'm just going to build on that. Is the reason being is I think data share is going to become much, much bigger. So data clean rooms and the likes of InfoSum and LiveRamp, what you're able to do now is share data. So you can find your customers and audiences outside of Google. And I think that will grow. In the US, where you have GDPR and sort of data protections, it's slightly easier. But I think this will come here is they have data co-ops, and ultimately it's data put together, and you pick who you want to target. Yeah. What Google say is, trust us. And you're going to know. Let's go back to human psychology. Humans want control over their strategy and who they're trying to target and speak to. And I think that through data clean rooms, through retail media, I don't need to advertise on Google anymore. I can advertise with a real great select partner or 5 select partners. I can find my customers and advertise on ITVX in a really targeted way. And I can be more in control of those audiences, who they are and how I reach them. And that's why I think Google are really at risk right now. And I think if they keep preventing you from using first-party data in their platforms, that's when they're going to really struggle.
Awesome. They'll take back control. Tom Hill, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Jamie.
That's it for today's episode of Retail is Detail. This episode was brought to you by Loxa, the Klarna for insurance, protecting every retail customer everywhere. We support retailers in offering product protection on all major platforms, online and in-store, on all insurable categories. Visit loxacover.com to find out more. You can catch previous episodes on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or at retailersdetailpodcast.com. I've been your host, Jamie Hamer. Thanks for listening, and see you next Monday.